So this person just graduated from UCSC in 2012. He created the Campus Sustainability Internship Program, and he's a co-founder and CMO of Civinomics. Welcome, Robert Singleton.
All right. How's everyone doing tonight? All right, so I just want to start off with a couple of questions just to kind of break the ice. So how many of you are directly affiliated or employed by the university? Okay, so a majority of the crowd here. And so how many of you would say that you have your dream job? Okay, a little bit less, but still pretty significant. That's actually really good. So when I was first invited to come in and speak here at Event Santa Cruz, I wasn't really sure what to do. I kind of wanted to perhaps do a business pitch, but I felt that would kind of get a little boring, maybe just talking about my company. I will give you a little brief summary just to make it easy. So I'm the co-founder and CMO of Civinomics, and so for those of you who don't know, Civinomics is an online platform that allows anyone to submit and vote in ideas for improving their community. We then take the highest voted ideas and hand deliver them to our local elected officials, as well as cover a bunch of local policy initiatives like your city council and board of supervisors agenda, as well as local initiatives and bills that your assembly members and state senate are passing. The whole idea is to try and get more people involved in the civic process and create an informed citizenry using 21st century technology. Additionally, we also run a series of public outreach and research campaigns in which we try and get community members involved in local policy on the old-fashioned way, person to person. So we do polls. For instance, we're doing a poll about tech commuters in Santa Cruz that'll be due out next week. We're also doing a poll about various infrastructure projects for consideration desalination here in Santa Cruz. We've worked with the local government, but that's kind of in a gist what our company is all about. But rather than give you the full Civinomics pitch, I really kind of want to share a couple of key stories that kind of really influenced how our company works and influenced me as an entrepreneur, really drawing upon my experience at college. So first and foremost, I went to college with my best friend. And the first story is really how we decided to go to UCSC. So my best friend, his name is Tyler Jessen, and he actually worked under Chris Wilmers for a little bit, so it's coincidental that he's presenting tonight. But he is actually working in the Arctic Circle right now, tagging and doing research on grizzly bears. So he literally gets to fly around in helicopters and shoot grizzly bears with tranquilizer darts and do blood samples and things like that. And that's really his dream job, and it's perfect for him. Me, I'm a little bit different. I'm much more policy focused, and that's kind of really why I got inspired at UCSC to do what we're doing here at Civinomics. So we chose UCSC kind of at whim. I had gotten into UC Santa Barbara. My mom really wanted me to go there because she lived in Ventura. Tyler got into UC Davis and was considering kind of doing a pre-med kind of thing based upon what his parents were. And we figured we'd just take a tour of UCSC just, for the sake of it. And it took us about 5 minutes driving up through the long meadows, seeing the entire view of the entire Monterey Bay, looking at all the meadows. And I'm a big bird guy, so I saw a golden eagle with a 9-foot wingspan drop down and catch something out of the meadow. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And we started driving up through the campus, and we're with Tyler's cousin, who was actually a student at UCSC at the time, and we asked her, like, okay, so where's the campus? Because we're used to UC Davis and Santa Barbara, where it's really centralized. And she was like, well, what do you mean you're on it? And I'm like, okay, well, where? And she's like, it's 5 square miles of a redwood forest, and all your classrooms are in between all of that. And we kind of turned to each other and we're like, okay, I see how we're going here. And that was kind of the gist of how we decided to go to UCSC. And so while at UCSC, UCSC really provided 2 fundamental things that I think really helped inform my decision to become an entrepreneur and my decision to get involved in politics and stay in politics. Really, first and foremost, UCSC is kind of like a microcosm. It's separated apart from the rest of the community, and there's a whole community up there that's kind of segmented and away from the rest of Santa Cruz, which is a double-edged sword. Obviously, we want to bridge the gap and get people involved in local things, but at the same time, it does provide a microcosm by which you can test things out and test strategies out and your ideas out. And ultimately, what's really important about that is it provides room to fail comfortably. And that is, you can test new ideas out and they can fall flat in your face, and the only one you're going to not impress is students, and they're going to be gone in 4 years anyways. But so the whole idea is that you have a comfortable environment with which to make mistakes, and that's really important for a budding entrepreneur, because that's how you learn as an entrepreneur and someone in business. You make mistakes. And then two, UCSC provided me with an institutional framework, which will really help you in government, to understand how so many different moving parts, administrative bodies, power hierarchies, codified rules will all interact and be at play in terms of how you navigate and interact and hopefully ultimately change a large institution. And so I was going to sit here and read off all the various positions that I've had at UCSC, from being a college-age senator to being a rep of student government to being the chief of staff of student government. I've also founded 3 different student organizations, and I've started environmental service work projects. I've written grants, and there's just too much to get involved in for the 8 minutes that I've been given, or so. But really, I want to focus on perhaps my experience in student government most of all, which is really interesting. On UCSC, you have 15,000 students or so. Not all of them live on campus, but they're all kind of a part of a shared experience and a shared community, and we all have similar values and things. But student government really was interesting because every single college had multiple representatives that would take part in drafting legislation, what little you can affect on a university campus as a representative student body. But we also fund various student organizations. And so it gives you a lot of understanding of working with the administration and working with various committees and working with the different pots of money that you can draw from and why, to understand how that all works. And it also gave me a wonderful understanding of how campaign politics can work on a certain level, even though I've been a part of it beforehand. Simply because at UCSC you're trying to convince other students to vote for various things, to fund other things, to offer their time, and just like in real politics, most people don't know anything or care. So it's a really good experience to get out there and figure this out. You also figure out really quickly that a lot of the potential corruption and things that might happen doesn't really happen from any kind of, no one really wants to be corrupt, or no one strives to siphon money off to the various group. It just kind of happens by circumstance. If you're part of a large student group and your friends are part of a various organization, you'll tell them to apply for a pot of money. They'll get a little bit of favoritism in a group. They'll get some votes. You'll be able to stand up for them. It's actually pretty interesting how that works. Also, what's interesting about the campaign politics of UCSC is, if you ever run for office on campus, is that the voting process is really interesting because you'll have people lined up in the Corey Plaza with a series of tables, and you can vote online at UCSC elections. And this is what I found really interesting, is that you'd have people with a series of tables and laptops in each one of those tables that would be connected to an actual ballot, to vote for student elected representatives, and they wouldn't be allowed to tell you who to vote for. But the tables will be decked out in literature with all the favorite candidates and propositions they wanted to have, and they'd offer you pizza to come over and vote. So the idea is, oh yeah, come over here and vote, and the person comes and sits down and oh, well, I don't know anything at all about student politics. Well, here's a piece of pizza, and I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, and you slap the table next to all your favorite names. So I actually lost that election. It's unfortunate because apparently pizza is greater than candy on the student politics bribery scale. But that gives you much needed experience in terms of how things may work at some times. But a part of that, I also did various work for sustainability orgs on campus. I co-founded the Campus Sustainability Internship Program, which for the first year, I wrote a grant to get it funded from a student body on campus called CSC. And we provided stipends for students to work directly with administrators in various parts of the campus, from land management and resources to purchasing to health. And these students would work with their administrative mentors to basically implement the campus sustainability plan. So they would do green energy audits of a given room and present that information back. They'd optimize the purchasing system to showcase, an emphasis and a point system that would skew towards buying sustainable products and services for the campus. You'd also have one of my interns over a course of 2 years ban the use of single-use plastic bottles for water on campus, and instead installed little dispensers in every single water fountain on campus that would allow you to refill your water bottle, which is actually a pretty cool and interesting thing because that was all funded internally, and we built that organization, and we made a lot of mistakes, and ultimately we got something really cool passed. So that kind of institutional framework really informs who I am and how I became an entrepreneur. And so I'd like to finish off kind of with my final story. How did Civinomics come into be? I was a co-founder of the company with my co-founder here, Monin Koenig, in my junior year of college, when I was, doing 3 different majors at once and holding multiple jobs as a writing tutor, subject tutor, holding all these positions, yada, 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 crazy. And Monty sends me an email out of the blue, and I've never heard of this guy before, and he goes, I'd like to try and get some of your interns, my interns working on environmental service work, to come build a mobile app that would give you real-time feedback on how you can improve your carbon footprint. So in the same vein of like Foursquare or various other social media apps, you could check in, you could get points and badges for making sustainable choices. And he showed me this little mock-up app on his iPhone, and I was just blown away when he did that, because to me it was like, wow, this could actually be the point in which our generation uses our technology and uses the distractions, uses all the things that so many people write us off as being, the lesser performing generation, to actually better the world, overcoming the barriers of space and time to give people real feedback on improving their lives and improving their carbon footprint. Needless to say, it was a lot harder to build than what was pitched at me. But that being said, we quickly realized, when thinking about it critically in implementation, how can we get people to actually to use this app? And not everyone has the ability to make sustainable choices. Not everyone has the ability to, change their hour-long commute each way to make, a barely livable wage to provide for their family. So how can we still provide them with an outlet to express themselves and hopefully improve these problems? Well, the idea quickly became, well, why don't we provide a forum that would give people social validation, points and badges and whatnot, for creating good ideas to address large-scale, systemic, institutional, sustainable problems. If you maybe can't do it in your daily life, you can still have a voice and still create good ideas and good policy just in your own time. And that was kind of the idea that metamorphosized out of that. And we quickly realized that building the app would be really difficult, whereas building the forum was just based off a lot of other social media tactics and a lot of other things that existed in the market. So we went ahead and built that, and then we quickly realized, well, why would we just limit ourselves to sustainable problems? How can we solve our healthcare crisis? How can we solve, the education crisis? How can we detail, or how can we provide feedback on, what's going on in terms of the collapse in global fisheries? Or there's a lot of problems. Pick your few. And so that was like, okay, let's build a really good forum site that's going to allow people, a real outlet to actually affect change, and what is that actually going to look like? And so, we had this grand vision of, being able to crowdsource national policy. But that quickly became like, okay, well, if we're going to set up a community forum, it's going to, devolve into every single large-scale national forum that exists on the market, where people just call each other partisan names and nothing ever gets done, and it just becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy of division. Well, how can we bridge that kind of national partisan atmosphere? Well, it quickly became, well, let's focus on how can we transcend that by providing a common shared experience for people. And so that was like, well, let's go local. So rather than having, Democrats and Republicans and libertarians and, and socialists or whatever talking with each other, let's all just talk about something we all share in common. We all drive on the same roads. We all get our water from the same place. We all draw our energy from the same power grid on a local level. Chances are you've experienced a similar problem that most members of your community have as well. And just given that, we decided to focus on local issues, and it became just a local forum. And that's really where Civinomics was born out of. And while we were developing that forum, we decided, well, why not go out and try and get people involved the old-fashioned way? And so we were able to actually start up a research business where we used iPads rather than phone surveys or any other tools to actually go out and talk to people and create a really novel, interactive, and dynamic experience to show them, what does it mean to build a recycled water plant here? What does it mean to widen Highway 1? Here are the actual impacts. You can walk them through an interactive and virtual tour about a given project so that they're going to be much more informed and hopefully offer much greater and constructive feedback to what's going on. So that's really how UCSC, really influenced me to become an entrepreneur, to fail successfully, and ultimately to create something larger than what I had previously imagined. And that's ultimately what informed my experience in terms of helping to develop Civinomics. So thanks for listening.